Well, hello there. It is Tuesday night, and a little bit different Tuesday than normal here, but we are ready for the South Florida Blitz. For the next 30 minutes, we will talk high school football in South Florida. We apologize coming a little bit late to you for technical difficulties. Also, if you were looking for our playoff breakdown show, well, we didn't have it tonight because, well, there weren't numbers.
Well, there were no new numbers tonight this afternoon, and that's because some technical difficulties in the FHA and for right now. So, and
yeah, we apologize for that. We will hopefully be back next Tuesday from 6 to 7 and go over those numbers next week. But yeah, they did not come out this afternoon. Hopefully tomorrow those will be out. But we are bringing the South Florida Blitz as we usually do every Tuesday night, starting a little later tonight, as we said. But we got a lot to talk about. No guests in the show. It's been a weird couple of days for both Josh and I personally.
Yes.
Lots been going on, but we are definitely ready to bring you this show here tonight.
The show must go on somehow.
Absolutely. and we do have a lot to talk about in South Florida. So let's get it going. Let's start with an extra long edition tonight of the Blitz Lines, our headlines from around South Florida. And by the way, we will have our pick six coming up, as well as a look at the rankings from FloridaHSFootball.com. But let's start.
Yes, we do have rankings today.
We'll go over that a little bit later. But let's start tonight with a big one. We talked about this game a lot last week. Miami-Norland and Miami Central.
That was on our pick six, by the way.
It was. And Norland coming in unbeaten, but they had to come back from down 20-0. But they do. Norland beat Central 29-26. So I assume that would set up a district championship now for Norland.
Well, it most likely does actually go ahead and say thing. Gives them the inside track basically to win it. There's a couple of scenarios there sitting there where I think, let me pull up from last week's thing on the scenarios, because then we'll have more scenarios this week, because it is week 9. It's hard to believe, Marty. We're already at week 9 of the season. Yeah. And if you told me that the season would go by this quick, I would have been like, okay, this is crazy. But here we are. That we are at week 9. We are getting ready we're pretty much getting ready for playoff mode here.
Yeah.
The scenarios, it used to be before 2017, we used to be like, all right, well, if this team did this, it'll be a district champion or a runner-up, or hey, maybe potential 3-way tiebreaker. We don't do that stuff anymore. It's whoever wins the district's in, and everybody else has to wait for the playoff rankings.
Plus, we would know by week 10 who was all in the playoffs, because the district play would end then, and then you'd have everybody, the matchup set up. But the way it is now, of course, the matchups aren't set until after the final Friday of games, week 11. So, Saturday of games. So, yeah, that's right. It's we still got about 3 more weeks of a lot has to be decided still.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A lot has to be decided. And, of course, we're talking about District 2 and 13. And here was the scenario, the clinching scenario that Miami-Norland needed. Well, obviously, they got the first part with a win over Miami Central, but the second part, they needed a North Miami Beach to loss to Miami Carroll City. Well, North Miami Beach blew Miami Carroll City out the door. So, got to hold on there, Norland. I think you got this next week here. So Get that win over North Miami Beach, because that's the big key. That's the key game now is for them just to beat North Miami Beach, which North Miami Beach has been struggling this year, despite their tough schedule that the Chargers there have had. I think Norland, the Vikings, will win and just go ahead and win this out. I just think there's just no way that Miami Central, technically in my mind, is eliminated from the district championship race because of the loss.
Yeah, I know. Interesting to see. They'll probably still make the postseason, I got to think. Although they're 3-3 right now, but Central has played pretty tough schedule like they normally do. Oh, no, absolutely. And, of course, as we get everything with our fans here, and just got on, good evening to you, Michael Parsons. We're glad you're here with us. We just got on, too, so yes. That's okay. Welcome. Didn't miss much there, Michael.
Good evening and everything. And, of course, we appreciate our sponsors here. Of course, how about this one, Philip Crutchfield with Raymond James and Associates, definitely a big supporter of what we do here. So.
Absolutely. So, but anyway, back to what we were talking about with South Florida. Yeah, Norland wins that big game over Miami Central, so they're still unbeaten at 7-0. Another big one last week, Booker T. Washington actually won 2 games in 5 days due to a game that was postponed early in the year.
Yes.
In the area, they beat Northwestern and Edison last week.
Right, so they played Miami Edison last night. And it took them a month to finish that game off. It took them a month. So there was a month pause between the games. And sure enough, here you go. Booker T. Washington beats Miami Northwestern on defense. Edison comes and they come in and finish the game with Edison. And sure enough, now they win District 2 and 14 which puts them in the playoffs. By the way, St. Brendan, who is District 2 and 15, did win their district, so they are in the playoffs. So some district champs are being crowned around the Sunshine State. Of course, we'll have more of that here on FloydHSFootball.com here as we get ready for Week 9. And, of course, as we said, Marty, when you set the table for Week 9, it's pretty much there'll be some games here that'll decide more districts. But then Week 10, that'll really – if we don't get any more decisions this week, it's next week that we'll get those decisions.
Yeah, Week 10 is the end of district play. I mean, everybody plays each other through Week 10 and Week 11, and, you kind of play who you can play. But, yeah, the games still count, so they're still big as far as the postseason goes. But, yeah, you're right. The district championships the next couple of weeks should really be almost nearly decided. So, Booker T. Washington with a win. Meanwhile, down in Davie, Western coming back with a big win over Cypress Bay to win the district title there in Broward County.
Yes, Western, people have been questioning, especially on the FloydHSFootball.com message boards. They've been kind of wondering about what the, Western, they had a lot of talent come in, there was talent on the roster, and they've kind of struggled. But also Western's played a tough schedule. So, you got to kind of balance, look at things, what the Wildcats have. Coach Rack there, Adam Rakovich, he's a great coach. Everything, he knows how to get the best out of his players. And, of course, you bounce back from a loss from Plantation American Heritage a week ago. Now you beat Cypress Bay and you beat the heck out of them. Win the district title, put yourself in the playoffs. Again, district champs guaranteed themselves a spot in the playoffs. Not usually a seed 1 through 4 anymore, but, that the big thing is that, usually it's hey, you guarantee yourself a spot. You'll be seated 1 through 8 somewhere in the final ranking, and that'll be the fun part right there. And, of course, Michael Parsons chimes in and it says Western played AHP tough, and, yes, they did. And that's the thing, and I think, them playing American Heritage tough is the reason why Cypress Bay got they just lashed out on the Cypress Bay Lightning. Shut them out.
Yeah, that's a pretty impressive win there for Western over the Cypress Bay. Moving along on South Florida, here's a team we talk about a lot, Pahokee. They dropped their second in a row, being shut out by Benjamin 35-0. They're now 4-4 in the season. Are the Blue Devils in trouble for the postseason?
Oh, and I put this on our Blitz Lines to discuss because usually Pahokee is pretty competitive in games, but to get blown out, to get shut out by Benjamin, that is huge.
Right.
That is huge in a lot of ways because the Blue Devils are usually that team that sits there and takes everybody else on and just, they'll give them the good games. So, they'll be competitive. And this one, I just, I really wish we had our playoff rankings because I would love to see where Pahokee is sitting at after all this. I really wish I knew where Pahokee was sitting at because honestly, at 4-4, I can tell you this right now: Pahokee's out of the top 10 in my 1R in the 1R rankings. I did. They're out of it.
Top 10. Wow. Yeah. Well, I guess that shouldn't be too surprising at 4-4, but still, we'll see if their schedule's enough to get them in. I
would have still kept them top 10 in my opinion if Pahokee was able to have kept, made a very competitive game. Maybe, just everything, maybe it was a 35-28 score or something like that. That's where I would have been like, okay, 4-4, you've played tough games, you're playing competitive games. Yes. Benjamin is a competitive team. That is a competitive game when you look at it on paper, but when it happened, it was nothing close like that. And that's where it's just like, why? This is why I'm asking the question. And Michael Parsons chimes in on this one. Marty, Pahokee sleeping, maybe following Glade Central. And yes, Glade Central, which, by the way, finally picked up their first win of the season, 7-6 over Inlet Grove.
That's hard to believe.
Which, by the way, does not help.
That was a powerhouse program.
Yes, by the way, that loss for Inlet Grove does not help a school up here in this area, Eastside, who played them week 1.
Eastside. But the thing about Eastside's going to win their district anyway.
So, likely. Yes.
But, yeah, that's true. Eastside did play them here in the opening game of the season. But, yeah, Pahokee, it's interesting to see. We talk. I feel like we've talked about Pahokee for years and years, and we have. They've been that program. But, yeah, a little bit of an issue this year for the Blue Devils. So we'll see if that costs them as we get down the stretch. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good.
Season here. All right.
A lot of papers here.
I know.
A lot of papers here.
There's so much room we have here. Lots of undefeated teams to talk about. First of all, we talked about Miami Norland, now 7-0. Chaminade Madonna had the week off. They're still undefeated at 7-0. Maybe not surprising there, but there's some teams on here that might be a little surprising. Archbishop McCarthy still unbeaten 7-0.
Yes, Archbishop McCarthy, by the way, I think actually they're 6-0, but I put it 7-0 because there are a lot of teams 7-0, but they're still undefeated. Archbishop McCarthy has struggled for years. They have struggled, and of course this year, they're independent, but you got to give them credit. They're sitting there playing. They're the program's building and they're improving, and that's what you want.
Right, exactly. And this has always been a good baseball program, Archbishop McCarthy. So that's good to see. Also, Ransom Everglades at 8-0, right there in the Miami area. They're in Coconut Creek is where they're Coconut Grove is where they're located.
They're right there on the bay.
Yeah, right there on the bay. It's a beautiful school.
Biscayne Bay,
been
right?
There before for the water polo state championships, but they're 8-0. And how about University School? We haven't talked about them in a while. This was a program that was won some state titles. They're now 7-0 back this year. And then you got Palm Beach Central also at 7-0.
Yes. And with that, Marty, what's really interesting is that these schools, I tell you this, and it's like, university schools are a good example. COVID kind of took a hit on them. They didn't even play football that year. All the kids ended up transferring over to a program called True Prep, who is now a shell of itself compared to what they were in 2020. And those players got because university school basically did not have athletics at all during that thing. They were playing it safe. They were not trying to do anything. And but at university school, they kind of came back, they come back with varsity football, but now the way they're approaching varsity football is not what it used to be. It's now they're in the Sunshine State Athletic Association. And actually this week, I can tell you this is we'll digest that a little bit more in the rankings, but I can tell you that NSU University School did make a jump in the top 10 of the SSAA rankings, and we'll talk about more about that here coming up in a few minutes.
Yeah, Michael Parsons saying Mavericks a big surprise. Talked about Archbishop McCarthy and also University School doing great. That's
and they
right.
did get a nice win over Westminster Academy, which is what NSU beat. And so just last week, if you saw the rankings for the Sunshine State Athletic Association on FloridaJustFootball.com that I had University Ocal 1. Number 2 was Westminster Academy. Number 3 was NSU University School. This week, it's different. And we're going to find out why there's been a change in the rankings in the SSAA other than this game.
We will find out, but that'll be coming up after our 1-minute water break. And when we return, we'll look at some more Blitz lines from around South Florida. Also, the Pick 6 is coming up. Marty Pallman, along with Joshua Wilson, the founder and owner and publisher of FloridaHSFootball.com. I said 3 different titles there for you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
This is the South Florida Blitz. We'll return in 1 minute.
All right.
Welcome back. South Florida Blitz here as we come back from our water break. Coming up again, we'll have the rankings from FloridaHSFootball.com for South Florida, plus the Pick 6. Some good games there this week. But let's continue with part 2 of South Florida Blitz Lines. You don't have to run the music again.
Oh, sure. I don't have to run the music.
Go ahead. You're right. Go ahead. Why not? Part 2 the South Florida Blitz Lines as we go from talking about Pahokee struggling to how about Miami Northwestern 2-6 after losing to Booker T. Washington last week. Are the Bulls likely to miss the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy to think about. This is that, why in the world are we talking about Miami Northwestern missing the playoffs? Well, as you said it, Marty, 2-6, and that's the crazy thing in all this is that, what in the world is going on there at Miami Northwestern? Well, Michael Lee Harris took over as head coach. They fired Max Edwards, who was the head coach over the last few years, and just talking about this, the Bulls, they had something great there, and gonna give Michael Lee Harris some time. Some of the kids, they transferred out to other schools, and it's not just as strong there at Miami Northwestern as compared to Miami Norland, Miami Central, now Booker T. Washington. And Booker T. Washington sitting here, hey, they're the ones that gave Miami Northwestern that 6th loss of the year, and now here they are, they were sitting out the last couple of weeks, sitting out there on the outside of the playoff picture, and now they're not even going to be in the playoff picture, and that's a big thing. Usually, we associate Miami Northwestern in terms of being a playoff team, but here we are.
Yeah, that's right. Here we are, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're right. It's going to be hard for them to probably make the postseason with a 4-6 record if they win the last two. The schedule though is tough, so maybe that'll help them as well. Michael Parsons again says Bulls improving. It could be too late. It could be. You're right. And losing to Booker T. Washington was a big one last week as well. All right, let's move along to southern Miami-Dade County. Homestead, we talked about them last week. They had a big win a week ago. They get another one this week as they pull away to beat Miami Southridge.
Yes, they did not let history repeat itself like they did from last year, where Miami Southridge caught them napping and took the district title away from Homestead, who, by the way, as we all remember, Homestead played St. Thomas Aquinas for a state championship. And but this year, the Broncos just totally took care of business against Miami Southridge. And I got to give them credit. That's huge, because you don't want sitting there hanging over your head like that could have it keeps you wondering, okay, well, you make the playoffs. Now you're in a position to go ahead and win the district, lock in a playoff spot, and not have to sit there and worry about hopefully that the playoff the rankings would give you something to work with.
Right, exactly. So Homestead, as you said, looks like they're going to be district champs as well. And actually, they are, I guess, now if they're beating Miami Southridge as we head towards the end of the regular season. All right, here's a game we talked about a lot last week. True North Classical, Miami, and, well, Bradford goes down to Miami and beats True North 24-13 last Friday afternoon. It was a 3:30 kick. So first loss of the season for True North. Bradford, we'll talk about them in the North Florida Blitz later, but for True North, they take their first loss of the year to a team from North Florida.
No, absolutely. And of course, for the North Florida team, usually it's hard for any team, that's not used to the environment that South Florida has. Bradford goes down there, plays a 3:30 game at Tropical Park against True North, and 24-13. I mean, that's a solid game for two teams. But you got to really think about it and give it to. Give it to them for Bradford for taking that game on, making the trip. But I think I give in terms of that, True North I give them kudos for taking that game on against Bradford, a program that's a little bit bigger than them. But you know what? Hey, you've got now two quality games. One's a win, one's a loss for True North. You played First Baptist a couple of weeks ago. You beat them, defending state champ. Then you take Bradford on, who, has played some solid teams. So True North, at the end of the day, is going to get a benefit of the doubt, and they're going to get some value added on to their playoff power ranking by just playing Bradford because of the teams that Bradford has played.
Or as our friend, the hacker at 1010XL in Jacksonville calls them every Friday, Bradford County.
And of course, Gene McKenzie joined. Says the thing in the Bradford there. You're talking about that win. That was they made. I know he made the road trip down there, and because he was taking pictures from down there and videos. So I know he made that trip down there.
That's a big win for them. You're right, and they're heading towards I'd say they're heading towards an undefeated season. They got that game with Swanee left coming up the last week of the season, but Swanee took their first loss last week against Madison. But again, that's for our North Florida Blitz coming up later. Staying in South Florida, now we go from Miami-Dade County down to towards the Treasure Coast area. Speaking of which, Treasure Coast and Vero Beach on collision course, their big championship weekend, which will be next Friday in week 10.
Actually, next Saturday, because they're going to play on a Saturday.
Sorry. That'll be, with championship weekend, as you said. So that'll be a good matchup. And meanwhile, Jensen Beach wins their second straight district championship for the first time in school history.
Yes, I mean that's sort of second straight. That's something that does not happen usually often for some programs, and for Jensen Beach, who is still technically one of the more newer schools, but been around for a while now. They've been around for about 20 plus years now, but still newer on the side of things when you look at the history of teams around the state. Jensen Beach winning second straight district championship. Of course, the FHA did them some favors by putting the way it did the districts in that stretch of that region in Class 3S. But nonetheless, the Falcons, 2 straight years of a winning season, 2 straight years of a district championship, and 2 years of being locked into the playoffs. That's huge right there. I mean, very huge. And got to give Coach Caffey over there at Jensen Beach major props for keeping his team focused and being able to win some games. And they only lost this season so far, by the way. It comes to Benjamin.
Benjamin, right? Who? What a year they're having. And
yes,
we'll be talking about them again. Also coming up in a minute, the pick six. Before we get to the pick six, so let's take a look at our rankings from FloridaHSFootball.com for the teams in the South Florida region. By the way, Marty Pallman along with Joshua Wilson of FloridaHSFootball.com. No guest tonight with us. We are bringing you 30 minutes of, us talking, so hopefully you'll enjoy that. But coming up next, as we said, a look at the rankings for teams in the area.
Yes, absolutely. And, of course, as we get ready to start, I do want to pop up Gene McKenzie's comment here. The 9th grade kid at True North had a beast at number 6 Harris. He was on the show Warriors of Liberty City. By the way, they have a freshman quarterback, and he has been putting up some huge numbers there at True North. So definitely, thanks, Gene, for sharing that tidbit of information with us. And of course, we get into the rankings here, Marty. There should be no surprise. There was really no big changes in the Florida top 25 outside of moving Miami Central down a couple spots due to that loss to Miami Norland, who now actually moves up. Miami Norland is now the number 1 team in Class 2M with that 7-0 record, but Chaminade Madonna still sitting there at number 1. They're 7-0. I misprinted that. It's not 8-0. They're 7-0, so they didn't play. So, but that's I will fix that. But they're 7-0. So,
yeah, number 1, Miami Norland, as you said, now up to 3rd at 7-0. You got American Heritage Plantation, number 4. They're rolling along at 5-1. Central falling to 5th.
Yes.
Despite the 3-3 record, Central still in the top.
Well, they played one of the
state.
Toughest schedules anywhere in the nation,
yeah,
so you can't discount Miami Central out of top 10 in the state. There's just no way. Not at this particular conjecture. I'm not discounting them, and I feel like this point chance. If you put Miami Central versus Cocoa on the field, I feel like it would be a close game, but Miami Central would win that game in my opinion. And but Cocoa sitting there, there's one team that should be, we'll talk more about them in the Central Florida one, but they're standing in between there between Miami Central and St. Thomas Aquinas, who people gave me flack. Some people gave me flack for putting Cocoa above St. Thomas Aquinas after all that, but I think I made the right decision by doing that, and I will still justify it to this day that Cocoa should be above St. Thomas Aquinas despite that loss.
Right.
And of course, St. Thomas Aquinas sitting there at number 7, and of course, looking at some of the other teams, here you go. Got a stretch of Homestead, Columbus, Miami, Palmetto sitting there, 3M, 4M teams right there, 13, 14, 15. And that's a good stretch of teams right there, in South Florida, especially in Dade County.
Yeah, it is. And then you look further down the list, Vero Beach is 20th. They will, of course, as you said, the big game coming at week 10 with Treasure Coast for the district title. Palm Beach Central remains number 23, still unbeaten at 7-0, as we said earlier. So those are your South Florida teams. And lots of them. Of course, South Florida usually has the most teams in the top 25, and once again, they do here this week.
And I like an easy week when I don't have to move teams around.
Yeah, and really there wasn't, except for, like you said, Miami Central moving down, Miami Norland moving up a spot. That was about it. So, all right, let's look at our the top 25 the South Florida teams in the area. He already started the music, so here we go. Time for the pick 6.
Yes, indeed. And we're going to go right straight into this one. And this one I like here. Cardinal Gibbons at Boca Raton here to start off things here, Marty. And I'll tell you this, Cardinal Gibbons 5-2, but Boca Raton, got to give them credit. The Bobcats, they won the district, stole the thunder off of Santa Lucius, and here you go. Yeah, this game is going to be a good one at Bobcat Stadium there in Boca Raton, right off I-95. But Boca Raton's fired up. But Cardinal Gibbons, I like Cardinal Gibbons, what they do, and I think the strength of schedule for Cardinal Gibbons is much better in terms of the case for it, and then compared to Boca Raton. And I'm going with the Chiefs in this one this week.
Yeah, both teams are 5-2. Boca Raton on the bubble in Class 4M, just outside the rankings, but Cardinal Gibbons ranked 5th and 2. Yeah, Coach Matt DeBuck, let's take him as well. Go with the Cardinal Gibbons Chiefs on the road in this game against Boca Raton.
No, absolutely. And, of course, let me write those picks down here, Marty.
St. Thomas Aquinas.
Yes.
At Monarch coming up. Yeah, that's our next game. And, well,
and Monarch, they're sitting there. They only have one loss in the season, by the way. So let's think about that right there, right this second.
Right, that's true. And I will. But after thinking about that, I'm going to take St. Thomas Aquinas in that game.
You know, Monarch has been doing really well here. They've only got one loss in the season. They're looking in a position to win a district championship, most likely in Class 4M in their district. But St. Thomas is St. Thomas, and I am taking St. Thomas here, and that's all she wrote on that one.
Michael Parsons says STA by 28.
Yes, so he thinks STA by 28, and of course Michael Parsons, he also is going with
Chiefs.
He's going with the Chiefs on that one. So, and by the way, he says Redskins. By the way, that was the former mascot of the Cardinal Gibbons Chiefs.
Oh, much like the Washington Redskins.
Yes.
Now the Washington Commanders. Okay, well that's right. So now, moving along to our third game of the week, and this is the team we talked about. Benjamin shut out Pahokee last week, and this week they travel to Cardinal Newman. Both teams with one loss.
You know, this is going to be tough. Benjamin has been playing lights out.
You have them ranked 3rd and 4th, by the way, at 1M. So very, very even ball game here.
This is such an even ball game. And I don't even know what the power ranking is going to tell me yet in terms of what the forecast is going to be, because not everything is entered just yet in terms of all the data points that are critical to that forecast. But if I say this is going to probably be a coin flip game, if you're looking for anything like that, this is probably that game here this week anywhere in the state. And you know what? Gosh, I just got to go here in my mind. I've got to go with the home team in Cardinal Newman just because it's at home. If this was at Benjamin, I take Benjamin. So I'm taking Cardinal Newman just because it's at home.
Well, after mistakenly picking Pahokee to be Benjamin last week, I'm going to go with Benjamin this week.
All right.
They beat Pahokee 35-0. So, hey, let's take Benjamin on the road. You're right. That's going to be a very close game between these two. You think both teams 6-1 should be a good one. All right. Western and Miramar. Now, I guess this says Western versus Miramar. So this game will be played.
I believe it's at Miramar. So, yes.
Sorry. And interestingly enough, Western is 4-3. So is Miramar. Both teams, Miramar's struggling a little bit for them, but Western coming in off that big win last week against Cypress Bay.
So, yeah. You know, Western, though, I think it's in terms of when I really look at everything here in my mind, I would like to go with Western in this situation just because I feel like the schedule that the Wildcats have played compared to what the Patriots have played, there is a little bit of a gap there, and that's why I'm going with Coach Kraken as Western Wildcats in this one over Miramar to get their 5th win of the season.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Western got the momentum in this game. They're on the road, but I think Western will get the win here as well as they head towards playoff season, already district champs. All right, well, here we go. Another game. We're
going to go to Miami Central, Miami Southridge first before we go to the big one that I think is going to really be a good one.
This game, I'm assuming, is at Travis Powell, Miami Central.
No, this one's actually going to be at Southridge Stadium. Miami Central is actually the road team on this one.
All right, gotcha. So. We just talked about Miami Central, and of course now 3-3, but that schedule has just been ridiculous.
The gauntlet, as they say.
And for that reason, I think the Central Rockets will win this game against Southridge. I think they'll get it done.
Yeah, you know, I think Central gets it done here, gets their 4th one of the season, and kind of gets things back on track here. And honestly, it's one of those situations where Central just, hey. They could have easily closed out Miami Norland last week up 20-0.5, closed out the whole deal, put Miami Norland with a loss, and been on the road for a district championship. But that's not the story this week. The story is Miami Central's got to look for redemption, and they get that redemption here in the GMAC Bowl game against Miami Southridge, and that's what I'm going with.
GMAC Bowl. All right, sounds good.
Wait to see. Michael Parsons goes with Wildcats on the road with the W, and of course he thinks Rockets are going to win big. So there you go, right there as well. And of course, the big game that everybody has been talking about this week since they announced the GMAC Bowl pairings: Columbus versus Miami Norland. And I'm telling you what, this is going to be a dandy.
They just announced this week.
About a week and a half ago,
So
actually.
they literally just do this like a week or two before. It's like
based upon the max rep rankings. But they decided this year to do North versus South, so they divided the county in half instead of just putting the two best teams together.
Okay.
And
interesting. They should do something like that up this way, but that is the it's a game of the week there. I mean, Columbus and Norland. You got Columbus ranked second in 4M according to your poll. They are only a one loss. Norland coming in undefeated. They've been on a roll. And Columbus ranked 14th in the top 25. Norland is third. You know what? I have a hard time seeing Norland's momentum stopping. I'll take them to beat the Columbus Explorers. I like the Norland Vikings.
You know what? This is a tough one, and this is why these games exist on the matchups there. And this one, you know what? Norland's just rolling. And here's the big thing, and this is why I'm taking Norland. I don't know what's going on. The Explorers quarterback is out. Albert Mendoza, so he did not play this past week. He's out. And, of course, Michael Parsons brings that point up here that we'll display here on the screen. Explorers quarterback is out. I'm definitely with a Norland on this one because of that reason. So I'm going Norland here on this one, Marty.
All right. So that is it for our Pick 6 this week. Those are all 6 really interesting games this week as we take you out now on the South Florida Blitz. By the way, we are we going to do a show when the numbers come out? I haven't to ask you.
I don't know yet. And know what's funny? Let's see if I can see if there's even anything with the terms of the numbers here, and let's see if anything is actually updated because, again, we're sorry. Michael Parsons. American Heritage versus Naples. That's a game that that is at Naples. So that's a game that I believe is at Naples, or is it at American Heritage? This is one of those games that Naples is actually traveling. That's
true.
That's a good question here, but let's see here and look. I'm looking at it right now to try to pull up the rankings here, see if anything has maybe come about, and nothing still.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing as of 8:17 p.m. here, which, by the way, we're kind of a little bit. It is at Heritage. Okay, so you know what, Marty, real quick, we're gonna call it a Pick 7 on this one for this week. American Heritage at Naples. I like American Heritage. I think Naples is just their strength of schedule. I mean, Naples plays the strength of schedule every year, but Naples is just not the same Naples under Rick Martin as it was under Bill Kramer.
I mean, it was going to be hard for that to continue.
And I think this game being at Heritage, it's just AHP is going to roll this game.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have any problem here. I'm with you. I like the Patriots to win that game and really no problem against Naples. All right, well, we'll do the Pick 7 then. That's what
well, on this one, we'll do that for you. Right. For you, Michael Parsons, just for you.
It's a different week, so that's what we're doing here. But stay tuned, though, and stay tuned to Twitter for the latest numbers from Florida HS Football whenever they come out, or pardon me, from FHSA whenever they come out.
And we'll have them for you on FloridaHSFootball.com.
We'll have them, that's true. So, but we will hopefully talk to you next Tuesday with another playoff preview from 6 to 7, and we will definitely talk to you next Tuesday night for another edition of the South Florida Blitz, 7:30 to 8 o'clock, most weeks, next Tuesday as well. For Joshua Wilson, I'm Marty Pallman saying so long. We'll talk to you again. Enjoy week 9 of high school football in South Florida.